Chris here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this week's reading vlog. So it is the 7th of November, and I am done with my final book support group and my spooky vlog, so that means I can kind of focus on whatever books I want that happen to be on my TBR. The first two that are the main focus are going to be these two, which are my holdovers from the final book support group that I didn't get through. I have about 80 pages left in this one, and I'm about halfway through this one. I'd like to finish them as I'm in the midst of them, and I'm enjoying both of them. And then I think my focus after that will be these two. So I am taking part in the Get A Clue Readathon, and I am on Team Colonel Mustard. And these two books represent the first two rooms in the readathon. I'm doing a completely separate vlog for the Get A Clue Readathon, so I will mention that I've read these, but I'm going to talk about them there because then I can talk about how they fulfilled the prompts and stuff like that, because we're trying to keep the prompt secret because we're not all getting the rooms at the same time. I also have an audiobook that I'm hoping to get to, so I think I'm going to move on to that because we've had 3 rooms drop and you can't move to the second room until you complete the first, and you can't do any of the bonus prompts until you complete the rooms. So I'm a little bit behind on that. I was not expecting there to be 3 drops in the first 5 days. So I'm hoping I can catch up on that so that I can start earning some points for my team. But I think that's going to be the first thing I focus on this week. And then I don't know what I'm going to read. It's all going to depend on what kind of mood I'm in, because I have a pretty eclectic TBR outside of that. I'm looking at my TBR. So I have some historical fiction on there, obviously, because I'm doing Historathon. I have some cozy mysteries on there. I have some potentially spooky books or fallish books because I have, I believe, all of my fall covers on my TBR. And then a whole bunch of other books. I have some adult fantasy I could read. I have some nonfiction. I've got a YA fantasy. I've got a manga. I've got... I could finish the Clue series. So I've got a very eclectic mix, so I can really kind of mood read. The only thing, looking at this, that I don't seem to have is a romance. I think all of the other genres that I like to read are on here. Because like I said, I've got mystery, historical fiction, adult fantasy, YA fantasy, middle grade fantasy, middle grade contemporary. I've even got like a historical fiction sci-fi book, because there's like a timeline that takes place in, like, I want to say like World War I and the Dust Bowl era. But then the third timeline takes place in like 2065. So it's kind of got maybe a sci-fi aspect being that far in the future. I've got nonfiction. Like, I've got spooky. I mean, I've really hit all of the stuff that I really like about books. And I can even throw a thriller on there because I have that for the Get A Clue Readathon. Though whether that has anything to do with the prompt or not, you'll have to watch the Get A Clue vlog to find out. So I've got so many options of what to read, so I should be able to kind of avoid a slump by mixing it up. So I'm very excited about that, and I'm hoping to have an amazing reading week. I'm hoping to catch up on vlogs and editing because I'm getting a little behind, and my phone is starting to get full, so I really need to get them edited and uploaded so I can get them off my phone. Mainly because I, in my infinite wisdom, decided to do a vlog for the spooky season where I spun a wheel. So every single time I read a new book, I filmed, which is eating up room on my phone. And then I did the final book support group vlog. So I had 2 vlogs in the month of November already. And I was only on the 2nd week of October. And that one is uploaded. That one should go out tomorrow. Well, I mean, it is. It's already uploaded and scheduled, so that one is going out tomorrow, and I am very glad that one's over, because if you've watched that one, you know I had to put down my oldest cat, and watching that back and seeing the grief on my face was not fun. So I'm very happy to be past that and not having to watch that because it's definitely made the last couple days hard because it's kind of bringing it all back up. And I'm going to move on now because I don't want to have the same problem when I get to editing this vlog of being really sad and just continuing the cycle of having a vlog once a month where I'm sad that I lost my cat. So I'm going to go read. I might edit. I have a book haul on my phone that would be April, May, and June that I kind of want to edit so that I can give it to you all. And it would take a giant video off of my, phone. So that's kind of the plan. I think I'm going to read a little bit tonight. I think I'm going to edit a bit tonight. And yeah, I will check back in with you in a few days and give you an update on what I've been reading. So it is Saturday, and I thought it was time to check in. I'm going to quickly kind of run you through some stuff because I've got some books that I can't talk about, but I finished Wish Upon a Sleepover. This is a fall cover, so you'll have to wait for my fall covers video to see what I thought of this and whether this was set in fall. And then I finished Takedown, and I started Pieces of Heart. These are both for the Get A Clue Readathon. I'm doing a separate vlog for that so that I can talk about the rooms and the prompts that they fulfill. But I wanted to let you know that I finished them and that I'm on page 271 of this, so I'm making decent progress in this as well. And let you know what else I'm reading, even if I can't go into depth about my thoughts on these. I did, however, finish 3 books that I can talk about. So first up, I finished The Sinister Mystery of the Mesmerizing Girl by Theodora Goss, and I'm giving this book 4.25 stars. This is the last book in the Extraordinary Adventures of the Athena Club, and I really enjoyed this. I loved being back with the girls and getting to see the adventure they went on this one. I loved trying to discover the mystery of it all and being with these characters again. I'm going to miss them, and I can see this being a series that I reread because the audiobooks are amazing. And I can see it being something I put on when I need an audiobook to listen to and I want something familiar. I think this is an amazing series, and I'm very happy to be able to check it off my TBR. This was a book I was reading for the Final Book support group. I didn't quite finish it there, but I did finish it in the month of November, so I'm very happy with that. Then in the same vein, this is another book I rolled over from the Final Book support group, and that is The Beast, the Queen, and the Lost Knight, and I gave this book 4 stars. This is the second book in the series. I don't know if it has a name or if it's just like the first book. In this, we're following Ellie and Cad, and it's a King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table retelling. And I quite enjoyed this one as well. I enjoyed getting to see Cad and Ellie's relationship develop in this one and see how they learned more about the world they found themselves in, learn more about the Knights of the Round Table and how that's going to affect their lives. The mystery in this one was in some ways a little frustrating, which brought my rating down a couple of points. Like, I think if that hadn't been so frustrating, this had potential for like 4.5. But there were times when I was a little frustrated with the way the characters were behaving because of things that were going on, and it brought down my enjoyment a little. But overall, I'm still really enjoying the series, and I definitely hope there's a book 3 because I want to know what happens next. And then, for what might be my most shocking rating of the year, I finished Nothing But Trouble, and I gave this book 5 stars. 5. I never in a million years would have imagined that a book in the bake shop mystery would get 5 stars. So this follows Jules. And in the first book, she moves back home to help her mom run their bakery. She's essentially licking her wounds. She is now estranged from her husband, and they had been working in the kitchen on a ship. And so she's come back home to deal with the fallout of that. And usually I get really invested in the characters, and the mystery is not my favorite, so it doesn't get 5 stars. Or Jules's estranged husband shows up, and I can't stand Carlos. And I'll enjoy the mystery aspect, but I won't like the personal stuff because it focuses too much on Carlos. This one, however, Jules ends up finding a journal that her dad wrote. And I don't know that I've mentioned her dad before in these, but her dad died years ago. And in it, he is looking into a hit and run accident with the professor, who is the main cop in the town. We've met the professor in other books, so we know who he is. But this is back when the professor was just getting started, and that was his first big case. So we see how Jules's dad and the professor kind of worked on this case together, but it is told from Jules's dad's point of view via the journals. And I really liked getting to know Jules's dad. I thought it was such an interesting twist on how to tell a mystery. And of course, it went unsolved, so Jules ends up looking into it in present day, seeing if she can kind of solve this case for her dad. I looked at the reviews, and it seems pretty decisive. It feels like you either really love this concept or you hate it, because a good chunk of the story is Jules reading this journal, and Jules isn't doing much. So if you don't like being away from the bake shop in like the current day, I can totally understand why you wouldn't get into this. But I got invested. I loved seeing the relationship her dad had with her and getting that glimpse into a world I didn't think we were going to get. So I didn't want to put this down. I was absolutely invested in it, and I absolutely loved it. So easy 5 stars. I struggle to see how another book in this series is going to get 5 stars, so this is probably always going to be my favorite one. But I thought that was such a cool way to kind of incorporate her dad into things and give us a glimpse into Jules's past, because at the time, Jules was a kid, so we do get to hear a little bit about Jules from her dad's point of view, which I thought was really cool. So that's been my week. I've made some decent progress, though I would like to make some more. I'm working on it. It hasn't been my best reading week. My head's kind of been all over the place. And I felt a lot of pressure because of the Get A Clue Readathon, because it is the 11th, and I can share with you that we've had 4 room drops. And until you log your first room, you can't read the second room, etc., etc. So I can't move on until I read the books in order, and I can't read bonus prompts for my team until I move on either. So it's been a lot of pressure, and I think that's made my reading slower, because I knew in the back of my head that I had these books I needed to get to, but I was in the midst of these 3, and I didn't want to kind of move on to the others. And part of the reason I got a little bit behind is Takedown, this one right here, is a physical read, and this was a physical read, so I didn't have an audiobook, and I was partway through this, so I wanted to finish this before I moved on to this. And then once I had started this, I couldn't listen to this yet, which is how I kind of ended up listening to this while I was reading this. And then I had the audiobook for this as well. So like, I was trying to balance reading books, because I tend to have an audiobook going if I have a physical book going. I like having audiobooks for everything I read, but if I don't, then if I'm reading a physical book, I'm definitely absolutely also listening to an audiobook. So it was just a case of I ended up not being able to listen to the second book because I needed to finish room 1 first, but once I was reading that, like, so I couldn't listen to book 2 while I was reading this. So I had to finish this before I could read this, before I could listen to that. And while I was working on this, I started to, yeah. Hopefully that makes sense. But it definitely made things a bit chaotic and made me feel a bit stressed. But I think I'm getting back on track. I am hoping to finish this today so that I can maybe finish book 3. And then without telling you what book, well, actually, I can tell you what book 4 is. I'm going to be reading Delilah Green Doesn't Care. And I can't get that out from the library until tomorrow, but probably not till Monday, because the library has shorter hours on Sunday. And as far as I know, they are open. They only said that they were closed today and Saturday. But I don't know if the book's going to be there or if it's got to be shipped from a different library. So I don't think get that book until Monday, which means I would then have to move on to something else. So I'm hoping to at least get caught up through 3 rooms, but we'll see how that goes. Anyways, I'm going to go now because it's 3:02 in the morning and I'm tired. Not I could go to sleep tired, unfortunately, but tired enough that I want to like curl up and read. Even though, let me tell you, this is a thriller. And I had a nightmare last night because I was reading a thriller after dark. So this is definitely not what I want to be reading at night. But alas, it's what I'm stuck with due to the way the prompts fell and the timing of when I can read it. So I would like to finish it so I can move on to something, you know, a little less nightmare-inducing. So I'm going to go and work on that, and I will check back in with you probably Monday, well, I say Monday evening, Tuesday after midnight, to wrap this vlog up. So it is Tuesday, and that means it is time to wrap this vlog up. I have read several more books since I last checked in with you. The first 2 being Pieces of Her and Mouse Heart, which I'm reading for the Get A Clue Readathon, so you will need to check out my vlog for that, for my thoughts. But I did want to let you know that I read them this week, and I finished both of them. Then I read The Liberal Redneck Manifesto, Dragging Dixie Out of the Dark, and I gave this 3 stars. These are 3 comedians who kind of wrote a book that I thought was going to be a lot more funny than it was. I found Trey Crowder, who's one of the authors, on social media, and I've really loved his, like, no-nonsense, straightforward way of explaining some of the ridiculousness going on in a way that anybody can understand with a little bit of humor thrown in. So I thought this book could be fun. And there were parts I liked, but there were a lot of stuff I didn't enjoy, and like I said, it just wasn't as funny as I was hoping it would be. Also, I listened to the audiobook while reading along, and that was a horrid experience. The authors read it themselves, which is totally fine, but one, they have these porch talks, which are in between. So, like, sometimes when you'd have one, you'd be in the midst of, like, here's a good example of, like, this section here, and you flip the page, and here's a porch talk, but they skip the porch talk and go back and, like, finish this part. So they're, like, times I was flipping back and forth, having to figure out where we just went in the book. There's other sections where you have pictures. They don't read this in the audiobook. And there's these sections like this with the gray background, where those also kind of get thrown in wherever the audiobook feels like throwing them in. So there was a lot of bouncing back and forth. Also, there are footnotes. And some, like, see, there's footnotes down here. And sometimes the authors read them, and sometimes they don't, which made for an awful audiobook experience, because it meant I had to keep pausing the book and figuring out where we were, or stopping to read the footnotes, and it definitely brought down my enjoyment of the book because it did not flow well with the choppiness of going back and forth. So I'd hoped this was going to be funnier and that I would enjoy it more, but it just didn't work for me. And then the other book I finished is Secrets on the Shore by Catherine Woodfine, and I gave this 4.25 stars. This is a novella in the Taylor and Rose series, which is a spin-off series of the Sinclair mysteries, I think it's called. And these are historical fiction mysteries, and like I said, this is a novella. And in this one, two of our main characters go to an inn where they're hoping to get some eyes on some German spies, because like I said, historical fiction. And their agent basically thinks that there is a drop happening, like a drop box, and clues are being exchanged, and our main characters are out there trying to see if they can catch the spy in the act while not alerting the spies to what's going on so that they don't change their methods. I enjoyed this one. I thought it was a cute little novella. I had forgotten how much I like being in this world with these characters. I like the new POV we got in this one, which is the son of the owners of the inn, who is a big part of this little novella, and I really hope that we maybe circle back to him and for some reason see him in books 3 or 4, because I thought he was an interesting character and I liked the way he interacted with our main characters. I really like this series, and I definitely would like to continue it while it's all kind of brought up and fresh in my mind, because it's been a while since I've read a book in this series and I would kind of like to finish it. So that might be on the agenda for the near future. The only other update I have is that I started The Heroes by Joe Abercrombie. I am on page 138. This is following Bremer, Dan Gorst, Prince Calder, and Curden Craw. And it says 3 men, 1 battle, 2 heroes. And it says, over 3 bloody days of battle, the fate of the North will be decided. But with both sides riddled with intrigues, follies, feuds, and petty jealousies, it is unlikely to be the noblest hearts or even the strongest arms that prevail. So this is the 5th book in the First Law series. It's a standalone, and obviously we're going to be spending time with these 3 characters during this battle and seeing how the battle progresses from their different points of view. I'm enjoying it so far, and I'm excited to be back in the First Law world because I've enjoyed the books I've read in this series, so it is interesting to see where we go in these kind of standalones that are in the world but don't follow the main characters from the first trilogy. So excited to dive back into this one at some point. So that is my week. I think I've had a pretty decent one, even if I couldn't tell you a lot about some of the stuff I've read because I've been working on books that have their own dedicated vlogs. But I'm still pretty happy with that. I've got some videos edited. I believe vlog 10 is uploading and has been uploading for a good 45 hours and is around 53%, so that's going well. And vlog 111 is edited. I just have to watch it and then upload it, and that one will be ready too. So some progress. This is vlog 114, I believe. So I have my spooky vlog to edit. No, yes. And then my final book support group, and then this one. So hopefully I can catch up this week, maybe. We'll see. Hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, I will manage to squeeze in the time to do that with also getting some books read and all of the other stuff I need to do. But that's going to be all for this vlog. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me Apple emojis. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!